Hello, Possums. I am pleased to have the honor to welcome all you to our show. We are Offensive Points, and we are very thankful for the opportunity to join the IDP Guys community. So shout out to Nathan and Ricky. Head over to idpguys.org and check out all the tools offered. Justin and Joseph drop their waiver wire pod every Tuesday live, so go check it out. Absolutely awesome stuff. Also, head over to idpguys.org and use promo code POSSUM to snag 50% off a season-long subscription. All this will do is secure the dubs and in turn secure the bag for you. So I just wanted to give a quick intro, explain what to expect with us, and then we'll get on with our game previews for week 10. We dive into every position, preview the games so you guys don't have to. So step one with our show, we are mildly obsessed with possums, and we'll refer to our listeners and ourselves as possums. This is our brand and we love it. We will refer to our community as the Passel. That's number 2. For those of you that don't know, a Passel is a large community of possums. You will also hear us bet fireball shots with one another. You are welcome to join along. We do love drinking. No, we do not have a fireball sponsorship, but if you guys know anyone, holler at us. So without further ado, Billy Mansell is in the one corner. He's wearing is that a Falcons jersey?
It's Kyler.
Boy's back.
Kyler jersey.
Return of the king, the mouse
you
king.
You can follow him at Hombre Vendor on the Twixter. In the other corner, we have Josh Hall. He is wearing a green polo, and as our resident Eagles expert, follow him at Josh Hall STL with 1H. And lastly, my name is Joe. I've been talking this whole time. I'm the one holding the pupa. Bullocks, I just dropped the pupa. Do you see me? Just kidding. Shout out to my Solar Opposites fans out there. Follow me at OP Joe with 2 E's. Follow the show at Offensive Points and follow the crew at IDP Guys. Lastly, hit subscribe so you can be notified for all of our shows. If you have a question, throw it in the chat and we will get to it when we can. Remember, guys, we live it so you can win it. So that was a very long-winded intro. Josh, Billy, what's up?
Quick way to get us canceled. Some Dan Harmon comments there. Love it. Love a good start to this new platform. No, happy to be here. Happy for Nate and Ricky and all those guys at IDP Guys. Happy to be here, and I appreciate all the help getting us all set up and ready to go after 1 week of conversation. So glad to be here. Number 4 is green shirt is an asshole. I'm pretty sure that's somewhere on the list. We probably should have done that. And ironically, I'm wearing a green shirt. I meant to change, but I was scrambling to get in here. So here we are.
You have to stay on brand. You have to stay on brand as a green shirt. If
I just
you're not
wear
wearing
green
one, it gets a little confusing of who's who. Yes, and I am Hombre Vendor, Billy Billy, and then Hombre Vendor on Twitter. Yeah, I like stumbling my way into this. We already have a familiar face in the chat. Rougarou, welcome in. It's good to have you, my friend.
What is up, sir?
Yes, it is good to be here on this new platform. All right, well, possums out there alike. One thing we like to do on this podcast is give out fireball bets, as Joe mentioned. And coming into a new show, I figured, you know what, I got to pay up on one right away. So I made a bet in week, I think it was 3 or 4. I can't remember which, one of the two, that Najee Harris for the entire season of, the 2023 season, that he would not have a rush at or over 25 yards. And by God, against the Tennessee Titans, he had a 26-yard rush. I didn't think he had it in him, but by God, he did it. So cheers to everyone out there. This is the first fireball shot of the new podcast stream. So good to be here, and bottoms up. You all can fill.
And while we're at it, I'm going to go ahead and take one of mine, which it is turning over to be a normal thing. But in our pre-season podcast fireball, predictions, I said that Javonte Williams would have the best career, blah, 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 of a person coming off an ACL. And he has not done that yet. Although he is picking up, I do have to say, I said we'll know when it happens, but Breece Hall has shown that it has not happened. Breece Hall has had a better return from ACL. So I'm just going to go ahead and it's Crown Apple, but you get the gist.
Well, we don't have a sponsor.
I think
yet,
Jordan
so
Brooks has had the better ACL recovery of either of them, but
I mean, like I said, Javonte just didn't. So I thought it was a thing. Also, I want to apologize to the IDP guys who are currently also on a live stream doing some IDP Week 10 stuff. I did pop into your podcast for 2 seconds, and I am Green Shirt Guy. My apologies.
Nice. Yes. Get used to that. He's an asshole and he inserts himself into things he doesn't belong in. So that being said, before we get into the actual what we're here to do today, we're going to preview Week 10. Every game we're going to talk about mostly all offense, but we will touch on some IDP topics. But before we get into that, I just want to ask you all, what is the most unlikely return that happened this week between Martavis Bryant, who came back seemingly out of nowhere, just completely did not know he was even still thinking about playing football, but he came back and signed with a team.
It's that.
Or Blake Martinez, who was a Pokemon collector who sold and cracked, called Blake's Breaks. That was the name of his Pokemon card break company, I guess, and he was found to be a fraud. So they kicked him out of the community, and instead of just, trying to figure out that, he decided to jump back into football. So between Blake Martinez and Martavis Bryant, which is the most shocking return?
I feel like you also got to put Carson Wentz in there, but he was still playing football last year and didn't retire by any means.
He was coming. He was coming at some point.
We knew it was coming. But honestly, it's Martavis Bryant. As much as the Pokemon thing happened, which, a lot of friends and family in the Pokemon industry love it. But no, it's Martavis Bryant. I didn't even know he still played football. And then the Cowboys signed him, and I was like, and that was their league. They couldn't have traded for a wide receiver at the trade deadline. They waited a week later to pick up Martavis Bryant. That's the game changer right there. I don't know who they thought they did. Maybe they thought they got Des Bryant. I don't know. I don't know what happened.
To take a great quote from Josh, I think it's Blake Martinez. I completely disagree with you, Josh. It is Blake Martinez because Martavis Bryant, he was working out, man. He was trying to get another shot in the league. He's working his ass off. You don't work your ass off when you're selling Pokemon cards, and you're damn sure not working your ass off when you get found a fraud. So he got out of football shape, and now he's going to get back into football shape. And I really hope there are a lot of Pokemon jokes throughout this season.
I don't know if the announcers know what Pokemon is, though. They'll probably pronounce it Pokemon.
No,
everyone knows what Pokemon is.
It'll be funny to see them try to seamlessly work that back into whatever their game call is for Blake Martinez.
Pikachu!
Yeah. With that being said, guys, let's just get right into it. We are on to Week 10. The trade deadline for most fantasy platforms is bearing down on us. So we'll probably get into a little bit of that next week. Yes, Josh. Thanks for raising your hand. The audio audience, Josh just raised his hand.
I'm in charge of quarterback, so I was going to kick this off, but you just.
Oh, okay, yeah, Josh.
I'll let you finish.
The floor is yours, sir.
Have nothing to say. Audio audience, believe me, this is par for the course. You will get used to this.
Oh, is this your first time? Oh, my apologies.
Josh just inserts himself into things that
I raised my hand. You could have finished. I don't know. The audio audience didn't know I was raising my hand, so you didn't have to say anything. All right. Without further ado, let's get into some football. We got the Chiefs, Dolphins, Eagles, and Rams on a bye, so we are missing the 3 of the top 5 quarterbacks, 2 of the top 2 wide receivers, I should say, a few great running backs, and 2 top tight ends. So things should surely get interesting this week for fantasy, leading to some desperation starts. And speaking of desperation, if you're playing anyone from this game, you're probably pretty desperate. It's Carolina versus Chicago, the battle for the number 1 draft pick. It's up for grabs here. And sadly, the Bears want to win this one to better their chances for it, or they lose and better their chances for it. I don't know. It's a tough call. Anyway, getting into the quarterbacks of this game, you don't want any part of that shit. Just want to get you out of there, get out and run. Obviously, you're keeping Bryce in Dynasty and do not sell at his lowest. Do not listen to those offers that are coming in because I know they are. And Bagent was a fun story, and hopefully he can do something, but I would advise against it. I get why it's juicy, but I hope that you have a better option, maybe in Superflex or Desperation. Tight ends, Komet has been a Bagent favorite and should be started here, averaging 20 points the last 2 weeks with Tyson under center. And is there a tight end in Carolina? The answer is you don't want him starting on your team. You're sitting Tommy Tremble and Hayden Hurst and whoever that other guy is.
Ian Thomas. Tommy Tremble's an all-timer, man.
Whatever.
It was some other random.
It was some other
name.
guy. It was a rando last week.
I saw that come across, and I don't know who that was.
That's just that helps no one moment.
Yeah, for real.
Absolutely zero. So, Khalil Herbert, he might be back this week. He practiced full the last 2 days. He has not been activated yet. But with Blasingame out, Foreman might be more involved as a bruising type back if Khalil Herbert plays. I have no idea how this backfield is going to shake out. It's a great matchup for whoever plays, but I'm really envisioning a really nasty committee. If Herbert is out, Foreman, I think, is a must-start RB2, especially against the Panthers. And then on the Carolina side, Chuba got fed, but he was very inefficient. Sanders got scraps, but he was very efficient. So I think Sanders' performance against Indy will get him more action. The Bears have been better against the run, but are still a really decent matchup. If I can, I'm trying to leave both of these guys on my bench, though.
Yeah, Bears running backs has been, dude. I thought Roshan was a thing, and it's just not.
No, Foreman is, it feels like the best guy, but at the same time, I don't know. Are they going to completely commit to him? You know, I don't know.
Bro, this season, I mean, they're not doing anything. Like I get that Foreman, he's on a 1-year contract. You got Herbert already. Like, throw Roshan in there for a game and just see what happens. I don't get it.
I can agree with that. Before I even get to mine, let's take Will Power's question on YouTube. Play Mingo over Shakir this week. So getting on to the receivers of this Panthers and Bears squad. So Panthers side, you're playing Thielen. Bears side, you're playing Moore and Mooney. As far as Mingo goes, I haven't loved Bryce Young's ability to get him the ball. He clearly likes him, and clearly in the future, as a dynasty stash, he's pretty good. But as far as season long, I don't think I would trust him. Personally, I think I would go with Shakir this week. They love using Shakir in the kind of pseudo other tight end role. They have Dalton Kincaid on one side, and then Shakir kind of eats up those slot yards on the other side. So I think I would actually go Shakir this week. But Mingo's coming. It's just I don't think this year Bryce Young doesn't have enough time to even think about making a decision. So Mingo I would leave on the bench. But as far as wide receivers go, Thielen, Moore, Mooney, and then Mingo in a desperation flex.
I would say with Chark out, I understand the conversation for Mingo. I'm in a pretty desperate hole with wide receivers in one of my leagues, and I thought about putting Mingo in, and I just don't think it's worth it on a Thursday night game. If this was a Sunday game and you had the chance, and I don't know if you got someone like kind of questionable, like, you know, I think you just go Shakir. He's had 2 straight good weeks. I mean, or at least decent weeks for fantasy perspective. Mingo's more of a you're rolling the dice at that point, and you don't want to one.
Yeah, I like Shakir, man. He's really coming on. I don't know how much the Broncos are actually going to keep it a game. This is my only concern. Their defense has been playing a little bit better, but Shakir absolutely has been getting the work. And then Will also asked Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray. I'm going Baker because I got to see it from Kyler.
As the person who's in charge of quarterbacks, completely exactly what Joe said. Baker has been very serviceable this year. As you see the 17 Baker Mayfield jerseys behind Billy, big fan. But he's also wearing a Kyler jersey, so it's kind of tough, honestly. Like, what do you think?
I feel like I'm targeted with this question. Yeah. It feels very targeted to the fact that I have 4 Baker Mayfield jerseys behind me and wearing a Kyler jersey.
It felt targeted. He was like, "Oh shit, I have both those quarterbacks."
It sure does. Kyler's got to be the play. We don't know what he's going to look like coming off of the injury, but I assume he's got to be good to go. I would go Kyler if you're asking me.
Well, we got 2 Bakers and a Kyler.
Man. He didn't play in the year.
I'm sorry. Dobbs came in last week and whooped the Falcons' ass. So I'm
Dobbs
not
has been playing.
Okay. He also didn't know anybody's name on the team.
Ball is
not
ball,
targeted,
man.
Just ironic.
Ball is ball. Billy, I thought that was a Vic jersey when I first got on this.
It does kind of look like a Vic. That one kind of like that little tab on the one.
A little 7.
Yeah, no, it's very ironic, Will, and we appreciate it. Yeah. So who wins this game? Do you guys care?
Bears win.
I care. I want the Bears to win or lose. I want the Panthers to win so the Bears can control their destiny.
But I feel like Carolina's going to have less wins at the end of the year. So I want the Bears to win for you because I'm here for you, Joe.
Thanks.
But I think Carolina actually wins. No offense.
I think it's going to be the Bears. I think it's the rare win-win, lose-lose.
It's a weird win-lose
game, but you also lose or win the.
All right, let's get out of here. I don't want to talk.
I'm going to go Bears. I'm going to do the opposite of what Josh does and choose against my team.
Doesn't work. The Eagles aren't playing this week. Anyway, on to Deutschland for Game 2 of the Munich series. Indy versus New England. Into the quarterbacks and tight ends. Minshew is entertaining to watch, but personally, another roulette table start in fantasy. So I would start him in only a super flex or extremely deep leagues, or if you just really don't have any better option. And you guys could say Mac Jones is turning a corner all you want. I'm not saying you guys, I'm saying the fantasy community, but you're not convincing me. He is a sit as well. Once again, unless you're desperate. And as for the tight ends, Minshew doesn't even like tight ends, so you're not starting anyone from Indy. I don't care who you think it is. It's not Granson or Mo Alley Cox or whatever else is on that team. So Indy's a no. But Hunter Henry is always in that kind of tight end 2 to 3 category, and especially with a couple great tight ends out, could always have a decent game. So I think you can start him.
Yeah, I do think Indy draws up a play for Andrew Ogletree for a 1 for 30 stat line every single game. So if you need 4 points, you could do worse. At running back, Jonathan Taylor is back in must-start RB1 Studley stud status. Zach Moss is on your bench now. If someone dropped him, we saw how much his handcuff value is. So if you have room, throw him on your bench. And then Stevenson had his best game of the year last in the NFL. I assume this game will remain pretty competitive, so expect plenty of passes with Zeke. But Zeke is going to vulture some short yardage touchdowns, man, if there is one. I'm calling it right now.
Yeah, don't think you're wrong there. As far as the wide receivers go, Michael Pittman is an obvious start. Josh Downs did get hurt last week. He was limited. I would say he's probably not going to play going to Germany. I would not think he's going to be out there. As far as the Patriots go, Demario Douglas has been limited as well at practice. If he's out there, I would consider playing him for sure. And then Juju Smith-Schuster was decent last week in a PPR league, 6 for 50. But I don't know how much he's got. Max Jones has to throw the ball to somebody. He's running out of options of people to throw the ball to. And with, Kendrick Bourne out, maybe Juju Smith-Schuster steps slightly into his role, but I don't feel good about anyone in this matchup other than Pittman, to be fair.
Yeah, and Downs was injured going into that game too. So, I don't think there's any way. I assume it's a re-injury or an addition to his already existing injury.
Yeah, he caught one pass and then he went out.
Which is sad. He's having a great rookie year, a really underrated rookie year too. So
I do love how the Patriots let Jacoby Myers completely walk and then gave Juju the same contract he got.
Yep, that's
stupid.
Exactly what happened.
Indy.
Colts.
Yeah.
I'm going to go Colts as well.
Just Mac Jones overseas, that just is a recipe for disaster.
I have to see.
All right. Akash Reddy on YouTube asks, hey guys, start 3. Derrick Henry, Monty, Bijan, Jonathan Taylor, leaning towards benching Bijan. And I am actually going to completely agree with you. Arthur Smith hates you and hates me too. So no Bijan. The rest of those 3 are good to go in my book.
The thing is, if you have these 4 running backs and say they're all 4 healthy this week, next week, no buys, I don't know what the buy situation is next week. You're gonna sit Bijan this week. He's gonna get 20 points or whatever the hell someone else doesn't get. He's gonna have a great week, and then you're gonna start him the next week, and he's gonna get another 7. So, honestly, yeah, it's Bijan. I mean, if Monty's healthy, the good thing is if Monty doesn't make it back for whatever reason, you do have Bijan to slot in that spot. So,
I'm sitting Henry, man. I think.
Yeah, I know. Joe,
this is the week you see Bijan.
Couldn't say you.
Henry.
Arthur Smith hates you, Joe. Arthur Smith hates you.
I'm going to get into it. I'm going to get into it, Billy. But
Henry, 18, 17,
I'm
18
giving
in 3
Bijan
weeks.
one more opportunity.
It's not Bijan. It's Arthur Smith. You're giving Arthur Smith one more opportunity.
I will give Arthur Smith one more shot to not be.
We're not even to Atlanta, and we're already having this argument.
Joe, don't let Arthur Smith have the power over you. That's what he wants. He's done this with Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and now he's doing it with Bijan. He's doing it to hurt you.
Did he shave his mustache off? I saw a tweet about it, but I don't know if it's real or not. I can never tell with Twitter.
I don't know. He deserves to. They should just, out of principle, cut that mustache off. All right. Michael, don't want to butcher the last name. I'm sorry.
Holy.
Welcome to the IDP. Okay, thank you, Josh. Welcome to the IDP Guys family. Got a SFB 13 question. Khalil Herbert in his first game back, or Evan Ingram in a tough matchup with Superflex. Points per carry versus Mega Tight End Premium.
It's San Francisco, by the way, not Superflex.
Oh, just kidding. Yes.
It's fair. SF does mean Superflex.
It's a tough matchup against Superflex. Just kidding.
To be fair, so my logic is it's Evan Ingram, Khalil Herbert, and God knows we saw what happened with a healthy Roshan Johnson. It's Dearness Johnson. No, not Johnson. Jesus, wow.
Roshan Johnson.
Roshan Johnson and the other running back, the big guy who gets all the Deontay Foreman. My apologies.
Yeah.
I've always mixed those two up since last year. It's a tough time for me. But San Francisco has been burnt the last 2 weeks. The only thing they got going for them right now is the bye week. So hoping they figure that out. But Ingram, he gets his, man.
Yeah, Ingram's playing. Khalil Herbert could come back and it could go 30% him, 30% Foreman, 30% Roshan. And Darrington Evans might even make an appearance. I don't know. I wouldn't trust the
I
Bears.
get the juicy matchup against Carolina, but it's not it.
Thing is, Dante Foreman, revenge game too against the Panthers.
Ooh.
Juicy.
Gotta factor that in.
Game.
Gotta factor in. Anytime touchdown bettors out there, get your bets in, my friends.
All right.
Bears aren't going to score a touchdown, dude.
All right. Let's calm it down. All right. Houston versus Cincinnati. After a couple down weeks, Stroud looks strides ahead of where he was the last few weeks. Best game in his young career, and I think he will continue to capitalize on a middle of the backfield of Bengals defense. So should be in every lineup if possible. I think that's perfectly understandable. He also found Schultz again after a couple down weeks, so should be started in every league in my opinion against the Bengals defense, who is almost league worse in shutting down tight ends. Speaking of back, so is Burrow. Back-to-back great weeks against pretty tough defenses, San Francisco and Buffalo. Don't expect him to stop here, and he doesn't really enjoy throwing to tight ends either. So Irv is out.
Fair enough.
Absolutely. Dameon Pierce out of my top 30 this week. Still battling the ankle injury. Don't know if he's going to play, but even if he does, sit his ass on your bench. You don't want him. Devin Singletary on your bench. Don't touch him. The only highlight in this backfield is Dario Ogunbowale. Kicked a field goal last week. So if Kamini Fairbairn misses again, I think they brought someone in. But if that guy doesn't play and you need 5 points in an 18-team league, put Dario Ogunbowale in. And then on the other side, Joe Mixon, solid option. Middle of the pack run defense with Houston. Mixon has had over 70% of the snaps every week since week 1. He's a true bell cow on an offense that is finally clicking.
Yeah, no. Texans wide receivers. Robert Woods is not coming back yet, so time to fire up Noah Brown, Nico Collins, and Tank Dell. I know a lot of Collins managers out there are thinking to themselves, what the hell, am I getting left in the dirt? I think it was just a game script situation, and the Noah Brown and Tank Dell matchups were just juicier against the Bucs defense. So I think Collins will get
down. Calm down, guys.
I know, but he didn't get targeted near as much as the other two, and I think that concerned people. But he did get the touchdown, so it saved his overall day. Bengals-wise, Higgins and Chase are both hurt. I think they're both going to play. If I had to guess, it is a Wednesday. For everyone out there, we're doing these on a Wednesday, so the injury reports are a little hard to decipher, but Higgins and Chase both popped up on the injury report today. Tyler Boyd's good to go, and Andre Yasivis is good if either one of those guys are unable to go, so maybe monitor your waiver wire if you don't already have him or somebody hasn't picked him up. But I think you're good to go with all the top guys in Cincy.
Good to see Higgins kind of actually have a normal football game, after
he was
pretty weird
the most
year.
Obvious buy low.
It's true.
Maybe dropping that shoulder into Damar Hamlin kind of screwed him up a little bit.
All right, so we get it canceled. There's number 2.
Jesus.
Somehow it's not me.
Joe.
What?
I know. This is not what I thought.
Point,
not what I thought we were going to do.
Point.
He wasn't even active for the game, Joe. Just unbelievable. Bengals win.
No. I want Houston.
I want Houston to win too. These are the weird ones they don't win.
I know they really won't. They played a really good game last week, and if they can keep that up, and since his defense isn't like great by any means, so they definitely could win this game. I think it'll be down to the wire. So I'm gonna take Houston anyway.
I'm going Bengals.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
On YouTube, Artist says, "What's up? Detroit, Pittsburgh, or Colts defensive special teams units? What do we think?"
Give me Pittsburgh. Give me Pittsburgh against Jordan Love all day.
I thought we were IDP.
I agree. We
Had
cater to everyone on this podcast, Josh.
Had to do it, man. That's what we're here for, or it's what I'm here for, at least.
I agree with Joe. Anybody going against Jordan Love, you've got my.
I'm actually on Detroit personally.
I think Kenny Moore scoring 2 pick sixes last week.
Herbert doesn't look right with that broken. I know it's not his throwing hand, but he doesn't look right with his finger. Like he's just not comfortable. And I feel like Detroit can easily capitalize into pick 6. I feel like the Jets almost did last night, but they just couldn't quite hold on to the ball or 2 nights ago.
Majority rules, Pittsburgh. All right, Josh, get us on.
All right, let's talk about a really fun game. New Orleans versus Minnesota. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you, Joe, no, Dobbs shouldn't be started unless you're Joe and you're super desperate. It's not it, though, Joe. Car.
It's late at the bar. The bar is closing, man. You know,
Yeah, dude. I'm sorry.
I need
The
some
lights are
Dobbs in my
low.
life.
They turn the lights
Yeah.
on. You're like, ugh, ugh.
Ugh.
And that has nothing to do with his looks. I'm not downing alopecia. This isn't Will Smith or Chris Rock.
Whoa. All right.
Jeez.
Thank
All
you.
right.
There's-
And
check
Car-
one in Josh's box. Jesus Christ,
check.
fellas.
Car.
Rein it in.
That Car can put flashy numbers from time to time, and he should still not be trusted. This is a fun game for tight ends, though. I will say, I'm personally not playing any quarterback from this game. I understand if you want to play Carr, but I wouldn't. But Taysom Hill seems to be the part of the season where he just starts flashing, and I guess you should play him. But you never know when that ends, so I would just be weary. But at the moment, he's putting up numbers. I completely get it. And you don't even need me to tell you about Hawk. He's playing. Even with 2 new quarterbacks, he still had 12 targets in a game, and you should just expect that every week when he plays. So,
Dude, Taysom Hill over the last 3 weeks, tight end 1 in football. That's where we're at with tight ends, people.
yeah, it's a rough life.
Oh, the Taysom Hill. I'll never get used to it. I never will. Madison gets a really tough matchup in this one, but he should see literally all of the work. We're just hoping that he falls into the end zone. The Saints are pretty tough. Ty Chandler at this time, not really a threat. What I think is we may see some Kene Nwangu. He returned shortly after the Akers signing, and he hasn't had any opportunities at all. So I don't see why they wouldn't try to throw him in there and get him involved. Absolute desperation stash if you're in a deep league. Madison, however, gets Denver, Chicago, Vegas, and Cincy over his next 4. So if you're looking for a guy to push you into the playoffs, he's not the worst guy to acquire. Running back is horrible right now. And then on the Saints side, Kamara has seen his snaps decrease each of the last 3 weeks. Williams has basically doubled his snaps that he's had last week. So he's fully healthy. I think a 50-50 split is kind of what they were envisioning in the offseason. I don't see this game getting away from the Saints, so Williams is a solid flex play for me this week. Kamara is obviously a start. The Saints run 65 plays a game, so there's plenty to go around for both of these guys.
Okay. On to wide receivers. On the Saints side, it's the usual suspects: Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed in a flex situation. And then on the Vikings side, I really trust Jordan Addison. And then after that, it's kind of a crapshoot. KJ Osborne got hurt last week, and I don't know for sure if he's going to be back and ready for this game. Brandon Powell, Tristan Jackson, who I didn't even know was a player. He got 3 targets last week. So I don't know. I don't think we are going to know who Josh Dobbs actually likes in this offense other than Addison. So I don't think I would trust anybody yet.
He did like KJ Osborne. He just got fucking rocked in the middle of the game.
He did.
Out for a concussion.
He did.
I do want to say about the Vikings real quick, though. Josh Dobbs' story is phenomenal. I feel horrible for Jaron Hall because he actually looked awesome on that first drive, and I just traded a bunch to get Josh Dobbs in the league. And I was like, shit, it's going to be the Jaron Hall show. And then sadly, he got hurt, and Dobbs looked awesome. So I feel really bad for Hall.
He's got a dynamite nickname too, the Pastronaut. I mean, come on now, that is an awesome.
That's amazing.
That's
when Massa
awesome
calls you
nickname.
out, dude, you're on to something.
Yeah, no, I love the Pastronaut. That's a fantastic nickname. Saints win.
Vikings win.
I don't care. Saints, sure.
Jesus, we're just giving out random picks that don't.
Neither
matter.
of these games. This game doesn't matter. Sure, the Vikings are like kind of in the running, and the Vegas is kind of, or not Vegas. New Orleans is kind of in the running.
Just to piss off Rue, I'm going to say Vikings all day.
Yikes. Akash says Saints defense fine this week. I think yes. But you're going to have to live with it if Addison and Hawkinson just go off with Josh Dobbs. But I think you have to play them. I mean, I think they're good to go.
This game could be sneakily high scoring, though. I don't know.
Dude, honestly, it's scary because, like, I'm telling you, it could be. That's the thing is, Carr seems to put up numbers when nobody thinks he will, and like I
like that. It's like a reverse jinx.
It's like you're like, Carr's not gonna do anything this week, and then he fucking goes and puts up 351 touchdown to Taysom Hill.
What's the over/under is 41 on this game? I could see that going over easily.
I could also see it going under easily.
Don't
bet your house on this one.
I would
bet
under.
Let's get into a better game 3 years ago.
Or we can answer one question. Artist on YouTube says flex, DK, Lockett, JSN, or Foreman. Sub, awesome show. Thank you for subbing, artist. We appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
I hate that you have DK and Lockett on the same team though, and JSN. How do you have all three of these guys?
He went all in on Seattle, and I can appreciate.
He's got Bobo on the bench too.
You thought about it.
100%.
I would go Lockett personally. He is the only one of those people that is consistent. At least you know what the floor is going to be.
I don't know, if Herbert doesn't play, I'd go Foreman.
Well, okay. Well, yeah. If
he
Herbert
does play, I would
go
go
Herbert.
Yeah.
I would go Lockett at the moment too. I do agree if Herbert doesn't play, Foreman's definitely the better option here. But like DK should be, like we all agree that DK should be the person you'd start, but it's not this year.
We talked about this in the off season about DK. He does this shit.
Yep, he sure does. Okay, moving on, Josh.
And Rougarou, I did have your back on New Orleans finally. You're welcome.
Me too.
All right, let's get into some good matchups 3 years ago. Green Bay and Pittsburgh turns into a probably good game because they're pretty mediocre. It's not really fun for fantasy. You're sitting Love, Pickett, and all the tight ends that are around. With Freiermuth out, it's not it. And I guess you could play Musgrave if you really, really wanted to, but I don't think you should. I don't know what's going on.
Muskrat had a good game, man.
Yeah, Muskrat's not my thing, man. I'm more of a possum guy.
I'm a possum guy as well.
Yeah, you know.
Running backs. Aaron Jones to start. He did pop up on the injury report. I think that's just preventative medicine for you. Steelers are giving up 112 rush yards per game and 30 receiving. He is still essentially splitting with AJ Dillon, which is so frustrating. But he's healthy and he gets the high value touches in the offense. And then Najee and Jalen Warren both had solid games last week. Still seeing a 55-45 split for them, and the Packers are kind of middle of the league matchup. There should be a lot of rushing in this one. I don't really expect them to go off through the air. So I think both of them could be in your lineup this week. Najee, low-end RB2, Warren, flex.
As far as the wide receivers go, Steelers, Deontay Johnson is the start. Kenny Pickett has turned into a one-read quarterback, and Deontay Johnson is that one read. Which also, I'm going to bring up George Pickens because there is a squeaky wheel gets the grease situation potentially happening this week. Pickens decided this week that he was going to pull the old "my social media was hacked" routine after he put on his, I think it was his Instagram, saying "free me." He said something else too, and then he deleted everything Steelers related. You know, the whole shebang. He did the whole thing. And then he claimed he was hacked and that he didn't actually believe any of that. So that should tell you where George Pickens is in his mental state going into this game against Green Bay.
He was hacked,
Kenny Pickett is not a two receiver kind of guy. He's just not. He's a one read guy, and that's just who he is. And that's okay for Deontay Johnson. George Pickens, we'll have to see if they get him involved. He is good for like a big play every now and then, but last week kind of showed you what happens when he doesn't get that big play.
You know what showed me his mental state, Billy? Sorry to cut you off there. That pass that he totally caught and had a foot down in the end zone and had about 10 feet of just grass before the out of bounds line, somehow didn't get the other foot down. That showed me exactly where he is.
Well, and then when Deontay Johnson caught a touchdown, he jogged off the field while everybody else on the team was celebrating with Deontay Johnson. Also, not good optics for our guy, George Pickens. But nevertheless, on to the Green Bay Packers. Christian Watson, this just isn't his year. Look, you have the wrong quarterback for what Christian Watson is good at. They're not going to work. Oil and water or Christian Watson and Jordan Love. It's just not going to work. So I don't know if they're going to have to come up with new packages or a new quarterback entirely, but Christian Watson's just not going to work in this offense.
If you're in a dynasty league, just try to get him.
Don't do it. Christian Watson was good for 2 reasons. He was wide open in the end zone for 5 of his 8 touchdowns last year in that stretch, and Aaron fucking Rodgers, and neither of those things are going to happen again. Literally, 2 of his best plays this year, he broken coverage. Cornerbacks ran into each other. He caught a 60-yard pass.
That is called finesse, Josh.
It's not finesse when the cornerback.
Christian Watson is a hell of a receiver. You want him on your team. Hopefully they get rid of Jordan.
You really don't. Please don't do it.
We will never agree on this. I promise you.
No, you're still wrong, Joe. Don't worry. You'll eat those words. Let's fireball bet it. I don't know. Just
For what? 10 years down the line?
Yep. 10 years down the line. You'd be like, he was a good receiver.
All right. On 11/8/2020, 2033, we're going to reconvene on this.
All right, we'll get there.
Jesus. Okay. Well, I'll write it down, but I'll probably get rid of this notebook well before then. All
Appreciate
right.
your honesty.
Also, Romeo Dubs. I like him a lot. It seems like him and Love have a good connection. Wasn't great last week, but I think better things to come. And then Dontavian Wicks. Actually, I am really liking this guy. If you don't know his story, I would suggest go and look it up. He's a receiver from Virginia. Had a bad senior year, but he really came into the Senior Bowl and then the draft kind of hoping to be the best. And he's actually shown quite a bit this season. I think he might have found himself an actual starting position on the Green Bay Packers. That'll be cool to see. I really enjoyed talking to him at the Senior Bowl. Can't wish nothing but the best for him. He's a decent flex spot play this week because there's a lot of wide receivers out.
Hey, speaking of Senior Bowl, that news that underclassmen are now going to be allowed to go to that. Oh
it's
my
the
God.
best. It's literally the best thing that could have happened. For those of you out there that don't know, the Senior Bowl is down in Mobile, Alabama. It's basically a bowl. I mean, I guess maybe everybody knows about that for the draft, but it's a chance for them to show their stuff and talk to the teams and everything before the combine. And it's always a good time. And the juniors were allowed to play in it in this upcoming season. So that will be really fun. I mean, there's not a ton of juniors every year that come out, but it's cool to see that they get an opportunity to get out there and show their stuff at the Senior Bowl. I cannot wait to go. I don't care who else is coming with me. I'll go by myself. Doesn't matter.
I think this means we need to get to the East-West Shrine game also because Vegas
I would love
awesome.
to, Joe.
And if we got some better players,
I'm on it. Sorry, guys,
if it wasn't literally like 3 days before the Senior Bowl, like if they coordinated it out a little bit better, I would definitely try to go to both. Well, I mean, someday maybe we'll see.
All right, let's get on to some more football. Tennessee versus Tampa Bay.
Steelers win.
Oh yeah, Steelers win. I forgot we didn't put that in there.
I'll take the Steelers too. Sorry, my bad. We just kind of started getting side railed. Tennessee versus Tampa Bay. Baker's actually a very serviceable fill-in, as you see behind Billy. He's a big fan. And if you picked him up to fill in, you should be fine. If he is available for some reason and you haven't filled him in for one of these, quarterbacks, say you were, not paying attention to fantasy football and no one else in your league was, you should go do that now. Although the Titans have recently gotten better against quarterbacks, this should be a game where the run game gets stuffed and Baker just throws it 50 times. While it most likely won't be really pretty the whole time, there should be some numbers put up. And while Otten had 2 touchdowns last week, he is up against that pretty stout defense and should be looked at more as a mid-level fill-in tight end, if anything. As for Tennessee, the Will experience was fun and short-lived, or was it? I don't know. The Bucks are second to last against QBs, and Levis can be not so confidently, but can be started. It's only his third start, and bye weeks, you're probably thinking about it because if you have him, you probably either had Kirk Cousins or you had something else because that was about when the time he popped off. And so, yeah, I mean, Levis and Levi's, the Jeans could be started, but Okonkwo can't. He just isn't what we thought week 1 or preseason. It's just not it. So don't do that, please.
Sad.
It is.
Very sad. All right. So Rachaad White is absolutely back in business. The Titans have given up 129 yards on average over their past 4 games. The only game they didn't give up massive yardage was to Gus Edwards, but we weren't expecting that anyway. So I expect Rachaad White to have a really good game here. The Titans you could not run on them earlier in the year, and then Jerome Ford broke them. So don't be afraid of them anymore. And then King Henry, no longer that. He is Derrick Henry now, but he is still in your lineups. The Bucs have been really good against the run, so temper your expectations for him. Tajay could get you 8 points in a pinch, but he's better left on the bench.
I thought Henry was having a decent season, Joe. Damn.
18 points in the last 3 weeks each week.
Anywho, as far as the wide receivers go, for the Titans, Treylon Burks has a concussion. We have not seen that many people come back from concussion to play in the same week. I don't think this will be any different. Don't think we'll see Burks out there. So in his stead, looks like Kyle Phillips might be a good fill-in for him. DeAndre Hopkins is obviously good to go, but Phillips is a decent fill-in option if you need somebody. Again, this is a tough week for wide receiver buys. On the Buccaneers side, Godwin and Evans are good to go. Their target shares there. Evans had a better game last week. Godwin got enough targets. It just didn't ever link up. I'm liking Trey Palmer more and more, but at the same time, like it's hard to trust him exactly. He's a guy that I would like to have on my bench just in case at the end of the year he kind of pops up. And then if anybody was to get injured ahead of him on the depth chart, I think his target share would be massive. I think it'd be at least 9 targets a game. So that would be fun to see if it happens that way.
And Tampa Bay wins.
Tampa.
Like, speaking of Chris Godwin, did we answer Ruge's question?
I didn't see one, Joe.
Sorry, Rue. Man, longtime fan.
Ruge asked. He said he's got Pittman, Higgins, and more for his wide receivers 1, 2, and 3, and then a flex between Gus Edwards, Tank Dell, and Chris Godwin. I'm gonna go Chris Godwin there.
Gus.
No, it's Godwin. Gus's streak can't last. There's too many running backs. It's not Keaton Mitchell. It's not even Keaton Mitchell. It's Justice Hill. It's Lamar Jackson. Gus has 3 touchdowns and 2 touchdowns. You take those away the last 2 games, it's just nothing. 40 yards is what it is.
Gus played 14 snaps last week.
He plays at the goal line. That's
fine.
All you need.
Fine.
Yeah,
that's all you need. There was a 37 to 39 shootout, and Chris Godwin had 14 yards. So
and he will continue to get 14 yards.
Okay. Well,
I was going to say points.
Good thing to put in your flex, Rue. Be prepared for that. What 2.4 or whatever.
Nah, I just feel like against Tennessee, Tampa, Baker's gonna have to throw. So I feel like Godwin's fine. All right, we agree. We all agree. Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm gonna go Titans, but we'll put Tampa down.
Whatever, Joe. And on to actually good games. We got some good games coming up here. So San Francisco versus Jacksonville. This should be a great battle against an on-the-rise Jacksonville team who is currently in 3rd place in the AFC versus a struggling San Francisco team who has lost 3 straight. So although on paper, San Francisco has been good against quarterbacks, Cousins and Burrow both found great success against them in their last 2 games. So start your studs with Lawrence and hope he can continue the streak. I'm actually in a league where somebody dropped him and I wanted to pick him up, but I have Burrow. So I was like, whatever. And it's like a 16 bench league. So Evan Ingram, tight end 10 on the year after bye, still locking lineups. You should always have them. And as for Purdy and Kittle, you have to start them after the bye. They should have found a way to get their team some points. That doesn't only involve Christian McCaffrey. So speaking of Christian McCaffrey.
Speaking of Christian McCaffrey, so this game, you have your number 1 and number 3 running backs in fantasy points, even though both of them have had a bye week. It's pretty shocking. You are starting both of them. Etienne is a machine. The 49ers are the 5th toughest matchup against running backs, but the Jags offense runs through Etienne, so do not be worried. And then for Christian McCaffrey, the Jaguars have given up by far the most receptions to running backs this year. Christian McCaffrey is going to eat. They are averaging 7.5 receptions allowed per game. Kamara had 12 against them in week 7, so that skews the data a little bit. But McCaffrey is one of the best receiving backs of all time. Whatever the over is for his receptions, bet it. The Jags have only given up 2 running back touchdowns all year, but that changes this week.
Oh, yeah, this is going to be a great running back matchup. I noticed this when I was writing it. I was like, I'm so fucking jealous.
Sure is. All right, as far as the Jags go, Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, those are your plays. Zay Jones is still a week away. So if you have him stashed on your IR, it'll be 1 more week at least before you can get him back out there. Can't wait to see what kind of havoc he wreaks on the wide receivers that we have already out there. And then on the 49ers side, Debo is back. So he should be going into your lineup. He practiced in full on Wednesday, so he should be good to go. And then Brandon Ayuk, our current wide receiver 1 in San Francisco, also good to go. Like them both.
Yeah, this is good. This is gonna be a good fantasy game, but it also screams trap game to me at the same time. Like I'm still a little worried about this game.
Feels like an incoming or something weird.
Yeah, Jacksonville's defense has actually been pretty phenomenal too. So, I have Jacksonville upsetting San Francisco. There we go. We're on the same page.
Me too.
Ooh, wow. San Francisco slides 4 games. Oh man, Kyle Shanahan's gonna be pissed.
Purdy is just not. He's lost something. They have figured out how to defend him.
You know what it is? Good. It's that they just figured him out. Like he's pretty easy to guess.
He was back working on the farm during his bye week, so there's a good chance.
I don't know if that's good or not.
No,
it is, man. It's rejuvenating. He's good.
Okay, well, maybe he's preparing a second career too. Who knows?
Yeah, gotta have a backup plan. And his is farming. All right, on to division rivalry, Cleveland versus Baltimore. Always a lovely rivalry between these teams. No angst or hatred between them at all. And both in Lamar and Andrews feasted in week 4 and should again. Not that you had a choice to sit them anyway, but just had to at least put it in there because that is the quarterback and tight end for Baltimore. As for Watson, he missed this game in week 4. This was actually right when he was in injury, and he's actually had a really solid year this year when he actually plays. I do think it's risky to start him here just because of the, essentially the best defense in the league, if not one of. But I feel like the way he's played in the games that he started and played a full game, other than one bad game against Pittsburgh, it's been pretty great. So you can hope to see that again. And Njoku has 3 straight games with 6 or more targets, which makes him different than at least 21 other tight ends out there. So expect a top 10 performance from him again this week, which that could be 7 points or that could be 14,
Yeah. Solid analysis there, Joshua.
I just feel like it's okay.
I like it. All right. So Gus Edwards, 14 snaps, 2 touchdowns, 17.2 fantasy points. Justice Hill, 48 snaps, 4 fantasy points. And then Keaton Mitchell, 14 snaps, 1 touchdown, 20.4 fantasy points. Do with this what you will, but John Harbaugh is doing his best Oprah impression. You get a carry, you get a carry, you get a carry. Mitchell averaged 7.2 yards per carry at East Carolina, and I stashed him everywhere this offseason. The problem is it was in garbage time. The Seahawks had 3 effing points. So hopefully this opens some eyes that Keaton Mitchell can actually give them some chunk yardage, which they have been missing. Gus has 48 snaps, 5 touchdowns the last three games, I believe. And Justice Hill is doing Justice Hill things. The Browns only allow 66 rush yards per game, so I don't really feel comfortable starting any of these dudes, to be honest with you. The Ravens have allowed less than 4 yards per carry in 6 of 9 games this year. I don't think the Browns defense is going to let this game get out of hand, so they should continue running the ball. Jerome Ford got 70% of the work, so he is startable. Abe gets a horrible matchup. Just don't be shocked when Kareem Hunt comes in on the goal line and vultures a touchdown. That's his role in the land. And Hunt could be used in a pinch, but with his usage in this matchup, I really wouldn't trust it.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. On to the wide receivers. This is going to be a thrilling list for everyone out there. Amari Cooper. And that's all I have listed.
Oh, okay.
Because the Ravens don't really have anybody worth starting right now. You don't know who's going to go off each week. Odell went off, but it was in garbage time. So all those points just came when the game was already out of reach. It wasn't actually, used in any meaningful way. So you can't really count on that. I will give Todd Monken this credit. Todd Monken is literally using the same offense and same strategy that he used at Georgia in the NFL, and it's actually working. I cannot believe it. He has a really strong tight end, and then he is just using random wide receivers to just piece and glue and cut and paste things together to make the offense as good as it is. Lamar's probably got to have a shot at the MVP at this point because he's really the only one putting up stats on this team. But the Ravens, you can't trust anybody on this team as far as the wide receivers go. There's just nobody. And then the Browns have Amari Cooper, and I don't trust anybody else, especially against this defense, who is very good.
The only thing that I would say is that Cleveland put up a pretty good game against them, and Seattle did not. Like, that was just a bad game for Lamar overall, but, you're not going to sit Lamar. You know what I mean? Zay Flowers, I will say, has slipped the last couple weeks. But I don't think it's over yet. I think it's still there. I think the 50 to 70. It's hard to start for sure because you're not getting 100 yards ever. You're not getting 7 catches even. You had a couple of good games at the early of the season and then a touchdown. And so it is tough because all the running backs just poach everything.
Mm-hmm. It's very tough. Lamar is not throwing as much as we had assumed because that's what Todd Monken said he was going to do with his offense. And no, they're not throwing at all.
They don't need to, though. That's the problem. That's the issue.
I know. And that's what I'm saying. He's actually making his Georgia offense this exact same. It's crazy to watch them doing this exact same thing that he did.
Just rotating in running backs. I feel bad for anyone who picked up Keaton Mitchell and thinks he's going to. It's Amari DeMercado all over again.
Maybe he's going to get an increased number of carries, but he only had 9 in the week that he went off. So
that's in garbage time.
Exactly. So, like, what are you going to do?
But people rush to get him burned waiver wire moves for him. So
I think the Ravens win this game.
I'm going Browns.
They look good. I don't like the Ravens, but they look good.
Yeah, I gotta go with the Ravens just because of the defense. I feel like they're gonna mess up Deshaun Watson pretty good, but I think it's gonna be a really close game. I think it's gonna be gritty.
Yeah,
love me some gritty football.
These feel like it. Okay, on to a couple questions. Javonte Williams or Ramondre Stevenson, full PPR. Tizinich ask on YouTube.
I gotta go with Stevenson just because I feel like that game will actually be a game. I do love me some Javonte Williams. He's finally getting a workload, but playing against Buffalo is it's gonna be tough, man.
Yeah, Stevenson has a much better matchup.
It's just the matchup. If we were playing against the same team, I think I'd pick Javonte, but I just feel like Stevenson has more opportunity potentially.
Right. And then Steven Pereira asks, half PPR, pick one: Gus Edwards, Alexander Madison, or George Pickens.
I don't like.
I'd probably go Madison.
Madison all day.
Yeah. We're really back on the Madison train after one good game.
We're talking about volume here, Josh.
Akers tore his Achilles. They're not going to put anybody else out there. They're just not. If they signed another running back eventually, I would say no. But like that, he's going to be out there. And Josh Dobbs is actually really, really good with running backs. Like you saw what he did with James Conner. Like that's kind of the same thing that he can do with Madison. So I think by the time this thing gets rolling, that Madison might actually have a good. I
just feel like this is going to be like against the Chicago Bears, 18 carries for 44 yards. Like it's just not going to look good unless he stumbles into the end zone. I don't think
18 carries against the Bears, which he translated roughly into 150 yards,
and that's 44. So yes, that's an issue. That's my point exactly. Thank you, Joe. Appreciate that.
Madison.
But yeah, it's probably Madison. I don't like any of those options.
With Kirk, Madison, not good. With Josh Dobbs, whole new situation.
All right. And then we'll get back into good games soon, but let's go ahead and talk about our favorite Atlanta Falcons playing Arizona. Heineke, let's talk about quarterbacks. We'll talk about some happy stuff. Heineke's finally officially named the starter, even though he played the last two games, started last game. This team almost looks at full potential, although London obviously was out last week. And he also somehow likes Jonnu over Pitts as well. So I don't really understand it. But in all honesty, Jonnu and Pitts can both be played for whatever reason. It's really stupid and it doesn't make any sense. But Jonnu apparently is there too. And you can't sit Pitts. I mean, unless you just have a way better tight end, but I doubt you do because you have Pitts. And you thought you had your tight end locked up early and you didn't. Anyway.
Pitts or Ferguson?
What?
Pitts or Ferguson?
Jake Ferguson?
Ferguson.
Jake Ferguson, 100%. We'll get to that later.
Yeah. I'm starting him in the league over Pitts.
Yeah. We'll get there. But anyway, you're starting all three of these people. You're starting Pitts, you're starting Jonnu, and you're starting Heineke if you can. It's the worst team in the league. And if anything, Kyler being back will just help the Falcons have to throw more in this game. So, and to those starting Kyler, i.e. Billy, I feel like he's wearing the jersey for a reason. I wish you the best of luck. I have no notes because we haven't seen him play football in a year. Historically, he's been good, at least for fantasy sake. If anything, the only good thing about this start is Trey McBride should see a decent amount of targets and should be started if needed and no better options. So this is actually a pretty good team pretty good game for quarterbacks and tight ends.
Yeah, it's a good game. So Billy, I got Derek Carr or Kyler Murray. Which one are you doing?
Kyler, obviously. What are you guys talking about?
I don't trust Kyler coming back this early.
Kyler's not coming back. Like, what do you mean coming back this early? It's been like almost a year. Like,
no, I mean like this early. Yeah, hasn't played.
Like no, he's good to go. He's literally. They would not put him back out there unless he was 100%. Joe, they're paying him like $200 million. They're not just going to flush that down the drain if he's just kind of like half hurt. There's no sense in doing that. All of his trade value is in whatever he does at the end of the season. So he's got to play well so they can unload his ass and get Caleb Williams. Like that is the plan, I think, or they keep him. Either way, he's got to play well. So they're not going to half-ass this one.
All right. Speaking of half-assing it.
Oh, here we go.
We are finally going to see the Bijan breakout game, hopefully.
Oh, my
The Cardinals
God.
have given up 9 rushing touchdowns and 4 through the air to backs this year. If we do see a big game from Bijan, you are absolutely selling him. In Dynasty, I have been shopping this dude for weeks. Arthur Smith has made this team competitive, and he's not going anywhere soon. We've seen how he has ruined Kyle Pitts and Drake London, and now he is ruining Bijan Robinson. It's going to continue. He came out and said that Algier was the best goal line short yardage back in the league, and there has been a pretty consistent 70-30 or 60-40 split between him and Bijan. But Algier gets the ball when he is on the field. With the matchup, Algier is usable as a flex.
Okay, Joe, I'm going to be honest with you. We're going to have, let's see if I can figure this out. It's called a Bijan Robinson intervention. A Bijan Robinson intervention for you. Because, Joe, Arthur Smith hates you. He's not going to put Bijan out there. Literally, Algier has like doubled or quadrupled him in red zone rushes. They're not going to use Bijan appropriately because that's just not what Arthur Smith wants to do. He is not going, I don't even know what his plan is because it's malpractice what he's doing out there, not using any of his top guys that he's drafted. They drafted them all in the top 10 and they're not using them in any good way.
No, it's horrible.
Doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely is horrible. What I said was Bijan is going to have that game though. He's not even going to need the goal line. He's going to break like 2 40-yarders. He's going to have a monster game, and then you are putting him on the trade block immediately.
All right, time out. We're going to derail this Bijan talk, and we're done with it. But Arthur Smith actually did shave off his mustache, and he is the only person in human history to look worse while shaving his mustache off. He looks awful. Just Google it when you have time. You don't have to do it right now. I just want to let you know. I'm done talking about Bijan.
I don't know if I can.
Let's talk about wide receivers. Or did you get through your running backs?
No, he's got to mention.
Billy had my Bijan Robinson.
Don't start any of them. It's really easy. Unless
Robinson intervention.
Yeah.
Connor's back.
James Conner, he's Braxton Fulham, close to returning. They haven't completely opened up his window yet, have they?
Window's open.
Window's open. All right.
But he's not technically.
He's not activated. Yeah, he's not active.
Yeah, he's not activated yet. So DeMercado has a toe injury, kept him out last week. Keontae Ingram had 8 yards on 9 carries against the Browns. And then Tony Jones played 40% of the snaps, had 3 carries and 3 targets. I assume if Connor does not go, DeMercado gets the bulk if he plays. And with Kyler back, it's going to help the rushing game. The Falcons have given up 0 rushing touchdowns to running backs. So unless James Conner plays, you're not starting any of them.
I feel you. As far as wide receivers go, on the Cardinal side, Hollywood is good to go. He's going to be in for a big, big day if Kyler's back. Those two are best friends. And then Michael Wilson should be back as well. He was limited today, and from what the beat writers have been saying, it looks like he's going to be full go. Kyler really worked best when he had the 2 wide receivers. He had Hollywood and Hopkins. He does tend to go at one, but I don't think Michael Wilson needs a ton of targets to make himself have a big day. So I think both of those guys are good to go. And then on the Falcon side, London is still limited in practice. I don't know if he'll be out there, but I'm just going to tell you don't play anybody on this team. I'm not going to tell you to play Kadarius Hodge. This is not the podcast that's going to tell you to play Kadarius Hodge. It's just not going to be ever. And I hate Arthur Smith. Our new audience doesn't know my hatred of Arthur Smith, but
they just learned it, dude. You just gave a whole spiel. All right. Anyway, who wins this game?
I hated him for 2 years. Everyone out there, it's been 2 years. Everybody else is just now catching up.
That's fine. Who wins?
Cardinals.
I got Atlanta winning this. I don't think Kyler's back yet. Not fully, at least, All right.
He wouldn't play out there if he was.
We got our first IDP question. We are on IDP Guys. We are IDP family. This guy has some great linebackers here. He says, pick 3, Quincy Williams, Bobby Wagner, Logan Wilson, or Jordan Brooks. Just looking at this great linebacker room, I think you should flip one of them. I would say, number 1, it's not Quincy Williams. You are starting him week in and week out. I don't care what happened last week. It is not it. Bobby Wagner, the ageless wonder, seems to keep doing it. My only issue here is Washington doesn't really like running the ball, except for with Brian Robinson, which could equal a bunch of Bobby Wagner tackles. If I had to sit one, it's Logan Wilson because the running backs just aren't working for Houston. I think they know it. I think they're going to throw a lot. And Jordan Brooks, you almost can't sit as well. So maybe you want to flip one of the Seattle boys, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, Jordan Brooks has the injury that just popped up. Not aware what it was, but he was limited at practice today. So monitor that one. He's probably fine. but
hamstring injury too. So maybe actually
Yeah.
sit Jordan Brooks. My bad. I did miss that.
yeah, I think I would. Yeah, I think that's what I would do. If Jordan Brooks is healthy, then I would probably sit Wagner, but that's just me.
Yeah, I would sit Wagner or Wilson if Jordan Brooks is fully healthy. Brooks and Quincy Williams should always be in your lineup, those two, and then you should pick between Wagner and Wilson. But
Yep, I agree with that. I agree.
I don't know who this is, but I love this. Do y'all work for Christopher Possum Harris? We need to find this guy and get him on our show. Don't even know who that is.
DM this account and give us that person's contact information because we would love to see what Christopher Possum Harris is up to.
We need to have a possum episode, just straight possums, possum talk, maybe a little bit of fantasy football. Anyway,
zoo expert.
let's get into some more football. This is actually
Brandon could have a pretty good just possum.
We could bring
He
Brandon
dropped
in,
he dropped like 50 possum facts on me like that. It was awesome. We just got to get him drunk.
This crowd actually hasn't heard our possum rants yet, other than the beginning of this episode. So we'll just leave that go for now. But let's get into the best game of football this week. I'm going to coin it America's Game of the Week. If they don't, they're dumb. Detroit versus Los Angeles Chargers. A very underwhelming Monday night game. Needs to be a little bit better for Herbert this week. Although I get if you're frustrated and want to sit Herbert this week, but you should not. You should play him. This should be a high scoring game, even if he's bad. The finger, I get it. It looks awful. He just looks uncomfortable back there. He looks like he's guarding his finger the whole time. But the Lions defense has been known to give up some points, probably because they just score too much. But you could and probably should sit Everett if you have better options. But I think you write it out here just because he should be able to get 6 or 8 points at least. And then Goff, I know it hasn't been great. The Chargers defense is just so abysmal at times. So I other than the pass rush, that's phenomenal. I'll give them that. But even Derwin's burnable, and this team is going to score some points. It's going to be a good game. So Goff, and you don't even need me to tell you about Laporta. He's starting every week, week in and week out. I'm actually in a bind. I have Laporta and Kincaid. I don't know who to start, but I'm probably going to go with Laporta because it's just wild.
Flex one of them.
Oh shit, I could.
Yeah, I've been double dogging tight ends in one league all year. So.
Damn, I haven't done that at all, but I might be doing that this week. Thanks,
double dogging tight ends. What a
tight
sentence! What a sentence!
We need some shirts, man.
Oh,
for real. So Dan Campbell came out and said on Monday that David Montgomery trending towards return to action on Sunday, so should be good to go. He also said that Gibbs has earned a lot of snaps. And then, of course, there's Craig Reynolds on this team, which we won't get into right now. I think Monty is right back in your lineups as the alpha. If he plays, start him confidently. Gibbs may be very active in the passing game if the Chargers do what we expect the Chargers to do. So start both of these guys. I like it. Now, the Lions defense is real solid against running backs, but Eckler is not a normal running back. Please temper your expectations for him, though. Even with his passing game work, the Lions have allowed the fewest receptions to running backs in the league, as well as the fewest rushing yards. They have faced Bijan, Kenneth Walker, Isaiah Pacheco, Rashad White, and all the Baltimore running backs. So they have been put to the test, and they have succeeded thus far.
Yeah, I think you're underestimating what I understand. It's kind of a reverse jinx almost for you, but I feel like you're underestimating what Gibbs's role will be in this offense going forward. I mean, I really think that he earned part of this role. I mean, it's still going to be Montgomery's backfield for sure. I do agree with you on that, but I do think that Gibbs has earned a part of this backfield and will continue to have some. And it's going to be a pretty decent percentage as to the limited percentages it was. And you know, a part of this is keeping him healthy for the future, the long term. That's the whole point of why Montgomery's here, is to kind of lead him into being that, I don't want to say bell cow back, but in case this situation happens again, you know, Montgomery's here for the next 3 years. I mean, this is a 3-year thing. We're going to have to get used to it. So
that's true.
See, I think the addition of Gibbs originally, and at the beginning of the season, I don't know if you guys remember, the Lions were just rolling people completely. So Montgomery was just leading and getting fed all the time. I think that's why we didn't see a whole lot of Gibbs. But after we saw Gibbs, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. So I want to see how those snaps divvy up now that they're both featured. If you will.
The only problem is they have a really easy schedule the rest of the year. We got Chargers, Chicago, Green Bay, the Saints, Chicago, Denver, Minnesota, Dallas, week 17, and then Minnesota. I mean, they have a really easy schedule. They can roll into the playoffs like easily, and they could actually take the number 1 seed from the Eagles if, you know, this Eagles slip in these next few games, which they have a tough schedule coming up. So they could take the number 1 seed. And how crazy would that be to see Detroit as the number 1 seed in the NFC?
I would love.
I don't want to see it personally as an Eagles fan, but I
don't trust this team.
Yeah, they could lose. They could lose for sure, but they've faced adversity so far this year. So this game is actually a big one for them.
On to the wide receivers. You got Amon-Ra St. Brown. That's it for Detroit right now. Sorry.
Ooh.
Jameson Williams does not have my trust yet. And then DPJ is limited with a rib injury, and it doesn't look like he's going to get a full amount of snaps this week, according to Dan Campbell. So don't think this is the week for DPJ just yet.
Okay, that was all I was going to say. Is DPJ's addition is interesting and intriguing.
He is.
I love it.
And I would love to see if how much they get him out here this week.
It's a great depth add for them. That was one of the best moves at the trade deadline, honestly.
For sure. And then the Chargers, Keenan Allen, Quentin Johnston. I like him in a flex spot. He's getting the targets. He's just got to kind of actually make them into something. Yeah. By the way, weird note though, DPJ has not appeared on an injury report at all this entire season. But when he gets to Detroit and they go through his physical, he finds out that he has a rib injury. It's kind of weird, right? Basically, like
Deshaun Watson has a whole like therapeutic care staff in Cleveland.
Well, I know, but like he doesn't trust
anymore.
the Browns staff. Like how he doesn't trust the Browns staff. Like maybe there is something to that. Like that's really weird, right?
Number fucking 4. Let's go, Joe. I love it, Joe.
I tried to just power through it.
No, we weren't going to allow it. We weren't going to allow it. This is what we are, man. We're offensive and offensive. If you don't get it, you don't get it,
True. But I believe there is something wrong with the Browns staff if they couldn't catch DPJ's rib injury and they find it when he gets traded to another team. That's very strange.
Or they were hiding it for sure.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. You can't trust them.
I've got the Lions, and I'm going to power through some questions here.
Lions too.
I also have the Lions, and I'll allow powering through questions.
All right. So Will Power says, what are your thoughts on Drew Tranquil for the rest of the season? He's got Quincy, Mosley, Edwards, Wagner, and Al-Shahir. We're not playing Drew Tranquil over those guys, are we? Same question for Kaiser White. No, absolutely not.
Kaiser White can be filled in there over Al-Shahir, potentially Wagner. I think there's an option for Kaiser to play, but I think Drew Tranquil, let's see some consistency first, personally.
Yeah, Tranquil is awesome. I just
didn't have a good game last week.
If you're trying to pick him up, yes, do that. But I wouldn't start him over those guys as of right now. Rug says he's got Xavier McKinney, Donovan Wilson, Jalen Thompson, Marquise Bell, Cameron Curl, and Derwin James. He needs 4 of them. I think it's Jalen Thompson, Marquise Bell, Cameron Curl, and Derwin James is what I would do.
The last 4. Agreed. Donovan Wilson, I just cut in the league. I'm over it.
Marquise Bell played the most snaps of any Cowboys defensive player last week. He did pop up on the injury report, but he is just fine. So
I like him.
Go. Yeah. Start him everywhere. Yeet Man says, Billy, you are the only one who has a Rams Baker jersey, which is absolutely hilarious.
Damn,
and then he follows that up with, is Gibbs and Hall close? I would say Breece Hall has the reins of that backfield, so Hall gets a much higher grade for me, but Gibbs is
yes, me too.
If Montgomery didn't make it back, sure, but he did. So sorry, it's all over Gibbs.
Hall is the more valuable person in that situation. Yep. Oh, I thought he meant Gibbs and you at first, to be honest. So.
Oh yeah. Gibbs would I definitely would say that I'm over Gibbs if we're being clear.
Gibbs or green shirt.
Gibbs or green shirt. Yeah, you got to really get it correct. And Ruru made an inappropriate joke about Watson. We would never condone some stuff like that. Let's get into some more football. All right, another division game. We did pick our winner, correct? Oh yeah, we picked it right. New York Giants versus Dallas. This should be a great game. Might look similar to the Philadelphia Eagles, maybe a little different. Tommy DeVito didn't actually play a terrible game, a couple interceptions, but he's a rookie, so to be expected. You should probably have a better option if we're being completely honest. Desperation, super flex, fill in, maybe. There is a chance that this guy actually goes out here. He's a young guy. We don't know much about it, but this is a tough defense, so don't expect to break out this week. Maybe next week, though. You never know. Dak Prescott could not flip into the end zone on that third down, but he is averaging 20-plus points in the last 3 games, or 30-plus points. I think I might have mistyped that. And he should be in every lineup. And I really just want to shame publicly anyone who dropped him throughout this year. You deserve to be shamed. He should have at least been your backup quarterback unless you have 5 people on your bench. Anyway, Jake Ferguson also couldn't get into the end zone on that same drive, just a little short. Sorry, Cowboys fans, I had to do it. But both, you should definitely start him as well. And with Darren Waller on the IR, Daniel Bellinger should be picked up everywhere. Not quite started yet, but if DeVito latches on, this could be a thing. And we just got to remember, we got to see what happens. He was really phenomenal before that eye injury last year, so I really want to see it. So if you have an empty bench spot, I think you should swoop him up. Or if, say, someone goes out at the last minute, you're like, who should I pick up? It's Daniel Bellinger.
It is good to see Daniel Bellinger, especially after that eye injury last year. I mean, that was bad.
He got a few targets last week. It wasn't great, but I mean, teams
learn
how to be a team
awesome.
over here.
We'll always cheer for the touchdowns. And then, okay, so Tony Pollard's problem is they're just not using him creatively. Kellen Moore got him in space. Schottenheimer just seems content to run him right up the middle. They should be using Pollard to hammer out this victory. The Giants have allowed 10 rushing touchdowns and almost 1,000 yards to running backs in 9 games. So start him with confidence. And then Saquon gets a tough defense, but he should be catching a lot of balls in this one. Although Damone Clark and Marquise Bellis seem to be more effective at defending the dump off than Van Der Esch was, you are obviously starting Saquon.
Oh, yeah.
For sure. Wide receivers wise, Darius Slayton, very popular waiver pickup this week. I would say I wouldn't expect a lot, but he is, good in a pinch if you are desperate and losing players or have a bunch of buys. And also Wan'Dale Robinson. I know it's not consistent. I know he's going to disappoint you. He just does that sometimes. But at the same time, if you need him, he's not a bad option. CeeDee Lamb, guys, have you ever heard of CeeDee Lamb? Well, he got 16 targets this week. Dallas, the hell has this been? Like, we've only been asking for you to use your number 1 wide receiver like the number 1 wide receiver for, I don't know, 3 years, however long he's been drafted onto this team. And they finally did it. And guess what? 11 catches, 191 yards. And that is the CeeDee Lamb we all want to see all the time. I don't know what the hell Dallas is thinking. Jalen Tolbert actually got a lot of work this week. I think everybody was kind of like, what the hell are you doing throwing to Jalen Tolbert? But whatever. They did it. And he had yes, Josh.
Cooks was outside on Slay for most of the game. They did swap a little bit, but for the most part, CD was on like Bradley Roby or whatever.
Again, why throw it to Jalen Tolbert when you have CD feasting on this defense? Why are you throwing it to
random
Jalen
slot corner? Oh, Sidney Brown was on him a little bit too, but anyway.
Yeah,
bro, I just love when Jalen Tolbert. I've been waiting on this breakout forever, and then they signed fucking Martavis Bryant.
Don't worry, I don't think you need to worry about Martavis Bryant.
I think I do for Jalen Tolbert purposes. Yeah,
I don't think you do.
Fair
either.
enough. Anyway, will cut into Jalen Tolbert's very limited workload.
Yes.
If you want to get cute, put in Gallup, put in Tolbert, put in Cooks. But this is a CeeDee Lamb team, and I am just super excited that we got to actually see what CeeDee Lamb could be if they fed him like the number 1 wide receiver that he is. I don't. Why did we wait this long to do something like
all
this?
right, and for those, and I don't disagree with you at all, Billy. 30 targets in 2 games is pretty phenomenal. But just for those who don't know, Billy, huge OU fan. So any Oklahoma fan is going to be really hyped up by Ombre Vendor. So just
okay, but that's not what I mean. Like,
I don't mean it. I know you don't mean it, but I'm just trying to. I'm trying to explain to a new audience.
DeAndre Hopkins, he should be like treated like these guys.
But he's from OU, so you feel more strongly about it.
Hey, you didn't hear me say anything about Marquise Brown getting 11, 12.
They haven't had a quarterback for
targets.
14 weeks.
He's named after a vintage media device, so we love him.
All right. Anyway, Dallas wins
Cowboys
this game.
Win.
Let's stop
Easily.
talking about it.
Easily, by the way.
All right. And then we get into another pretty shitty game, but probably should be good the way these teams are playing. Washington versus Seattle. Sam Howell, 2 great weeks, 300 yards the last 2 weeks. Needs those touchdowns to be passing instead of rushing touchdowns, but 4 touchdowns just 2 weeks ago against the Eagles. Seattle should be able to feast against him. He should be in your lineups, especially with a couple good quarterbacks out. And Geno Smith should not be in your lineups. I understand he could do okay. 100% he could, but he probably won't. I mean, Washington's defense isn't great, but he's been very inconsistent. I just would rather you not if you have the choice. And Seattle doesn't have any tight ends, so don't worry about that. But you do need to worry about Logan Thomas. He seems to be catching the meaningful balls. That's the great thing. He catches the touchdowns. He catches, the important balls. He's always looked to at first downs and on third downs and, the plays that matter. Put Logan Thomas in your lineup. I just feel like he needs to be. He's actually tight end 13, 14 on the year. And it's just kind of been a mediocre. If you look at the collection of numbers, it's not like phenomenal. It doesn't blast off the page, but he deserves to be started. Logan Thomas at 32. Appreciate that as a 32-year-old.
Shout out to keeping us older folks feeling good.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yep. So the running backs here, Wolf for the Commanders. Since week 4, Brian Robinson has broken 1 tackle compared to 6 his first 3 weeks. He has cleared 70 rushing yards just once all year, and his receiving work is inconsistent. The Seahawks are a great matchup, but you are still praying that he scores. Outside of a monster week 2, he has only averaged 9.8 PPR points, which with the running back landscape is not the worst you could do. The Seahawks are not allowing nearly as many receptions as the Patriots are to running backs. So even though Gibson had a good week last week, it's very iffy flex option and should be used only in desperation.
Joe, the worst part about this is Brian Robinson is running back 12 on the year, and it just pisses me off.
I know. It's that one, I think it was week 2. He just absolutely had a monster, but
it wasn't even monsters. 87 yards and 42 passing. Like that's 200. That's 120 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. It's the touchdowns that get him. He's got 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 touchdowns on the year.
Yep. If he doesn't score, he doesn't do shit for you. Mm-hmm. So the Commanders, they just traded away 2 of their best defensive assets, and then the Patriots went out last week and had one of their best rushing days against them. Zach Charbonnet outsnapped Walker for the 2nd straight week, so this is something to monitor. But last week was just a really bad week for the Seahawks. I like Kenneth Walker to bounce back in a big way here. He did miss practice today, has a chest issue, so watch out for that. If he does miss, Charbonnet absolutely is in the lineup.
What is going on with Kenneth Walker? Why is Pete Carroll now we're using Charbonnet? Not week 1, but week
he's
8.
hurt. Well, he's dinged up, right? Isn't that what the theory is? Is that he's not 100%?
Chest injury. Yes, I understand that, but I understand last week. Sure, outsnapped.
Well, yeah, the blowout. Yeah, that makes sense.
But even in Cleveland, it seemed like they were and I think before the week they were yeah, we're gonna use Charbonnet a little bit more this week. He deserves to be on the field, and I'm like, yeah, but shouldn't he have deserved to be on the field week 1? What was he just an outcast to your team you drafted in the 2nd round? Whatever.
I'll never understand. Wide receiver wise, McLaurin, Dotson was beautiful to see both of them have a pretty decent game against a Patriots defense that's actually pretty good. Seattle wise, you got to keep playing DK, but I can totally understand if you are thinking about benching him for somebody that you maybe wouldn't ever think to do that with. Geno just doesn't really have it this year with him, so I can't blame you. Lockett and JSN, I actually kind of like that because Geno's really good at the intermediate stuff. So I could see both of them having decent games depending on what the game situation is, but I'm assuming it's going to be shootout-esque with Washington. And so I could see both of them going off, but DK, I'm a little nervous about it.
Yeah. I don't love JSN. Honestly, is a solid play. He's been getting 9-10 points and half-point PPR. Not even upset about it. Also, just to appease the IDP fans out there, play Boye Mafe. 7 straight sacks in 7 straight games. Wild.
Yeah. Speaking on another IDP thread, neither Casey Hill or James Smith-Williams did a damn thing last week. They stepped in for Chase Young and Montez Sweat. I really popped there, but it is a situation to monitor going forward.
Yeah, and just well, all right, let's pick a winner.
Washington.
I got Seattle. I don't even care.
I got Washington as well.
Sure, take it. All right. Kevin Scott on YouTube says Kyler for Puka, and I say yes as long as it's not Dynasty. Don't do it for Dynasty.
Super flex, I'd be a little concerned too, but
questionable. Yes, but I think
Puka, one QB, I could listen to it.
I think you got chances for later. I don't know. Puka could be something big, especially if Cooper moves on and the Rams turn into something. Puka's on that team for the long run. So You think Draymond gets home versus Howell? Everyone gets home versus Howell every single time. No internal.
If he's going to do it this week, this year, it's going to be this week.
Yeah,
one of my big misses this year was Draymond.
3 more sacks added on last week against that Washington O-line.
Oh, yeah, it's going to keep going. And Will Power, Logan Thomas or McBride? I think it's Logan Thomas this week. But let's see what happens with Kyler for McBride. I just want to see the combo happen. I don't think it even happened last year whenever Ertz was there. And he was the number 2. And then Montez Sweat, Mafe, Juwan.
Thanks for taking that.
Jermaine Johnson. And Tuli. Or Matabuke. I'm going Boye Mafe, dude. He just keeps going, and this is against Sam Howell, dude. Like, he's just going to get home. And
Matabuke is my guy, man. That dude has been on an effing roll.
It sucks that you can only play one of them. I'd love to see the rest of this team because Jermaine Johnson's been going off too.
D-line is hard to find too. Yeah, Matabuke has been going off too.
Tuli's been kicking ass.
Montez you got a great D-line core, dude.
Last week.
I thought I had a good D-line core, and then you pulled up with that. I didn't like it.
I was about to say, Will, who are your starters?
Sweat is taking down Bryce Young this week.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's get into the game while Will Power comes up with people. Las Vegas and New York Jets. And Bill, I got to talk to you. What happened to these flexing of primetime games? I thought you said they could flex 2.
You want to hear my conspiracy theory about this?
Yeah, I would love to.
I think that they knew all along that they were going to fire Josh McDaniels because now the Raiders are interesting. And it's like, what are the odds that shit
Jets
happens
aren't
this week? Well, okay, you say that, and then Aaron Rodgers throws 3 passes before the game, and everybody's talking about the Jets. No, like this seems like if anybody was to ever convince me that the NFL is scripted, this shit right here is bonkers. That like, you have the Aaron Rodgers is going to be back in like 3 weeks storyline, and then you have the Josh McDaniels gets fired, and everybody's really excited for Antonio Pierce storyline, and that like somehow connects like this week on Sunday night. It doesn't make any sense normally, but those are 2 really good storylines going into this game. Like, I don't know. Like the game's probably not going to be fun, but the outside of football story is not bad. So I don't know.
But I agree with you. But like, let's talk about this. Like, I get why I put the Jets on Monday night and Sunday night and back-to-back weeks when Aaron Rodgers was supposed to be the quarterback, but he's not. Flex either one of those games. Like you could have put Eagles, Cowboys on Monday night or Sunday night. Like, like I know it's not happening this week, but like, what is this? Like, we got to watch. All right. Anyway, let's get into it.
Well, now any game can be flexed. So like, there's no limits anymore. They could, any game going forward, they could be flexed. So
you're telling me you couldn't have put Detroit versus the Chargers or Cleveland, Baltimore.
Telling you, man, this game has more storylines than those. That's the thing.
Sure. Okay. Anyway, let's talk about it. So Aiden O'Connell's still starting, I think, and you're still sitting him, so don't worry about that. Zach Wilson is also starting, for the team, that is, he's sitting for you as well.
Okay.
Mayer sitting as well. Conklin can actually be used, so there's some actual good news on this front. But other than that, this game is trash, and it shouldn't be aired at all. Blackout, media blackout. Nobody can watch Sunday Night Football.
I just love the over-under being 36. It might be one of the lowest over-unders I've ever seen in my life. Absolutely incredible.
Nobody can even score points against bad defenses.
Seriously. Brees is going to absolutely slaughter the Raiders, just FYI. I know the Raiders are more fired up, but still, Brees is my RB2 this week, so start Brees. And then Josh Jacobs, he's getting the rock, and that is going to continue. The Jets are a very tough matchup. I think we see Jacobs with a fairly mediocre game here, but you got to start him. With the exception of the Chiefs, the only time the Jets have given up over 100 yards in a game is when the opponents have rushed 35 times against them. So if Josh Jacobs gets 35 carries, he might get 100 yards.
I would love to see Jacobs play football again. I don't know what happened. Like, is he just trying not to get injured?
He's leading the league in rushes, so not for lack of trying. His rushing attempts are the number 1 in the league.
Weird.
The whole team's jacked up, man.
Wide receiver wise, Jacoby Myers and Devontae Adams are going to come out on fire. I can just feel it. This seems like, even though the Jets have a good pass defense, I still think this is a good chance for them to come out and show some things. On the Jets side, Garrett Wilson seems to be just matchup proof almost. I like he's getting anything he wants. He's flexing how good of a wide receiver he's going to be when he gets a good quarterback behind center. And then I still like Alan Lazard as a flex play. Look, it wasn't good last week, but he got 6 targets. He's still getting the targets. It's just not always connecting. He does always seem to come up with a big play, and then it just gets called back by, a penalty or two. So I would go with either of those guys in this matchup.
This is going to be Devontae Adams' worst year and since he was a rookie, basically. Like, this is so bad.
Well, this is what happens when they decide the quarterback should be chosen by Josh McDaniels.
Yeah, it's rough, dog. Like, I don't feel you got to be pissed if you're a Vegas Raiders fan, like, or if you live in Vegas, you're just hey,
now
football.
You feel free now that you have him out of there. And
yeah, but like, do you really think you're gonna make anything out of this year with Aiden O'Connell or Jimmy Garoppolo?
Well, what's wild is the 7th seed in the AFC is so wide open right now. Any team that
I understand it's the good move for now, but like, do you really feel confident in anything that's happening this year? Like, I mean, you're not winning anything. Like, if you make it to the playoffs, what are you gonna do? Lose to the Chiefs or the Bengals or whoever you end up playing?
No, they're gonna figure out the quarterback. Baker Mayfield, he'll be available, I'm sure. So go for him.
Baker Mayfield, the
jersey to the wall.
Jersey, yeah.
Yep, I'll add him to the wall. Don't worry.
I'm taking the Raiders somehow, but I don't think it's great.
Taking the Raiders, but I know it's going to be the Jets. I just know it.
It seems like a Jets
because of the defense.
Trap game.
Speaking of, do you think Bryce Huff continues his sack streak on 30% of the snaps? Because it's somehow been going on. I don't know how.
Not sure.
Good answer.
No, you know what? You know who I want to see? I want to see our buddy's brother. They were talking about him, the Williams brother, Quinnen. They were talking about him hard on Monday night.
Yeah, because he doesn't have a sack this season, a full one at least.
They're like, you need to give him some ideas to throw some sacks out there. I feel like Aiden O'Connell, this is the great opportunity to get a sack. Like, you'd think
Billy in the D League, man. I saw you had Quinnen. I was a little worried.
I have Quinnen and Quincy, but they both this is a bad year for me in that D League.
Yeah, I've been having a tough time. Anyway, let's get into the last game on the slate, and this is another game that should be flex, but here we are. Denver versus Buffalo. Russ against Buffalo, sure, it could happen, but like, just don't do it to yourself. And there's no tight end on this team until Dulcich gets back. And Josh Allen and Dalton Kincaid connection is real. Kincaid. Finally, with Knox out, Kincaid can be what everyone thought he was when drafted, and boy, does he look good, but only when Knox is out. That's it.
That's good, man.
It's pretty easy.
That was good. Javonte Williams got his biggest workload before going into the bye. He almost doubled his touches that he's gotten any game previously this year. I expect that to continue. The Bills are a very tough adversary, really have clamped down in recent weeks. With Bernard possibly missing this one, Williams is a really solid start in general, but he even gets a bump if Bernard misses. McLaughlin will get his minimal touches. You could start him in a pinch if you need to. And then James Cook only had 6 carries last week. He supplemented that with some receiving work to put up a decent day. The Broncos are a great matchup, but we have to see what happens when Fournette cuts his teeth in this offense. I assume he will step kind of right into a 30-40% role when up to speed. I would start Cook, but please be prepared for a rough showing there.
Is Fournette available to start soon?
I think
he can start this week.
I haven't seen anything about it.
There's no news on it.
He's gonna come in for Latavius Murray. James.
Oh yeah, he's definitely Murray's role for sure.
James Cook only has 1 goal line attempt this entire year, and it was when Latavius Murray was out. So should tell you what they think of James Cook.
Yeah, what is James Cook's deal, or what is their deal with James Cook? He runs the ball for 5 yards per carry, and then they're like, "Yeah, fuck you, dude."
Same problem they had with Zach Moss, man. Zach Moss goes to Indy,
too.
He looks fantastic, and when he's with them, it's like, not good. No. Wide receiver wise, Diggs, Davis, Shakir, I like all of them. I think this is a decent week to throw all of them out there. Josh Allen's just not consistent throwing to wide receivers. It's just not going to happen. Shakir and Diggs are probably the best option, and Gabe Davis is either going to be really, really good or he's going to be really, really bad. It just kind of depends on how Josh Allen's feeling that day because his passes are all over the place sometimes. It's frustrating watching Josh Allen play football because
It really is.
it is just not what you think. Every time he loads to throw one deep, you just feel like it's not going to get caught. Like it's either going to be overthrown, underthrown, or the wide receiver is going to bounce off his hands or something. Like it just feels like those never connect anymore.
Throwing a pick in 5 straight games. I mean, expect another one.
Well, yeah, that's like clockwork now. And then on the Broncos side, Judy and Sutton are both good plays. I'm sorry, Marvin Mims owners. I think it might be another year. I don't think Russ is the answer for this. And I think you're going to need a guy who can load up and let one go for Mims. And Russ just doesn't have that. But Judy and Sutton should have good games.
Yeah, Mims.
You said that watching Josh Allen is painful. Watching Cortland Sutton with him in your lineup is very painful because
that's the Denver.
He somehow catches a touchdown most of the time, but it is very sketchy the whole game.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, Mims, dude, I don't understand. There was like 3 weeks where they just like used him very sparingly, 2 or 3 targets, and then there was just like a game against KC. They just didn't use him. I mean, they lost that game, and then they played him and then won, and then he got 1 target. Like it doesn't make any sense. I don't get it either. There's not like there's anyone better to take the third role, but here we are. Buffalo wins, and let's just end it there, please.
Yep.
Yeah, I guess they do win, but I don't love it.
Yeah, here we are.
There's a chance Buffalo doesn't get into the playoffs this year, guys. I'm not gonna lie; they haven't really even gotten to the tough part of their schedule.
They'll make the playoffs. Eagles get to play them in Kelly Green.
Maybe a 6th or 7th seed. That's the worst part for the Bills. They're going to be a 6th or 7th seed, and that should tell
have
you
to
where
play.
At right
well, that what's cool about that? They'll have to play the Bengals and could knock off the Bengals or the Chiefs or something or the Jags or something early. It makes it interesting when teams are like in a low seed.
I guess the Bills aren't very good, so I'm not worried about it.
Is someone going to leapfrog them in their division that I'm missing here? Oh, Miami. Never mind. Duh.
Well, Miami will for sure. And then
I don't know, man. Miami's fallen to 2 big teams. Can they play the good teams? That's the real question.
Yes.
Tune in next week to find out. Next episode of Dragon Ball Z. I'm just kidding. I never watched that show, but here we are. Anyway, anyone want to sign us out? Do we have any? Will Power did mention he has Sweat and Granderson, and all those people are free agents, which is just wild to me.
Wow. I want to be in that league.
I do too.
For sure. All right. First episode in the books with the IDP guys. Thanks everyone out there for tuning in to tonight's episode. Please follow us on all of our socials. We will be putting up other content like during the season. Just if anybody's still in here just milling about, this is what we do during the season. We just kind of break down every game, and our content's really based around trying to help people get matchups. But as we get further on in the season and matchups, shows don't really make as much sense, we will get into further like dynasty content. We'll start getting draft content. We'll start having some of our friends stop by and we'll talk to them as well. We got plenty of those ready to come on at all times. So just stay tuned. If you're not a big start sit guy, don't worry. That's not all we do. We go all year round and we talk about every type of football that's out there. So
except for soccer.
Stay tuned. Well, not football, but yeah, exactly. So that being said, for the first time on the IDP Guys channel, Joe, get us out of here.
Good night.